Good evening. This evening we want to talk about cancer and how it is affecting our system today. We have many different thoughts about what cancer is and how it can be addressed. And it certainly is the scourge of today as to what is happening in our world. It seems like you don't know of most people know of someone who has cancer. So let's talk about what can we do to really make the difference in cancer, because it is something that you can take an aggressive step for preventing. You can take an aggressive step towards preventing by having a urine and blood draw that actually measures something called a CA profile. Dr. Schindel in Florida at American Metabolic Labs has created together the focus of using the 3 HCG. That is the three. One is urine and 2 are from blood. And this is the one from urine is the original work that Dr. Navarro did in the Philippines. Years ago, for many years, we had sent a very tiny, maybe like 2 milliliters of urine, or maybe even only 1. It was a very tiny little vial that we would send in an envelope to the Philippines. And Dr. Navarro was capable of telling us where to look in the body to send the person to their medical doctor and have them check in that specific area. And he was right on, and it was really quite enlightening to see how we can bring all of this now information together to see what it all has to tell us. Excuse me. So that in the CA profile, it's actually giving us not only the because the HCG gets suppressed, that's suppressing immunity, which promotes cancer. So it's not a diagnosis of cancer, but it certainly is telling us that we have some things going on in the body that we want to change very quickly. The PHI, the CEA, these are different parts or components of the CA profile. And the learning to know what is even happening with the thyroid. Remember that it was Dr. Max Gerson in his book Result of 50 Cases, where he showed how the thyroid was very, very relevant in its function, was very relevant to a breakdown in the body. He believed that proteolytic enzymes, specifically pancreatic enzymes, was very, very necessary to help the body to fight back. Dr. William Donald Kelly, who was here at Health by Choice in 2000 and did a 3-day seminar here. Dr. William Donald Kelly was the man who brilliantly put together the metabolic typing test. And this is long before we ever had computer systems that would do all this very quickly through by a computer. But he did this long, drawn-out 8.5 by 11 spiral ring notebook that you filled out. Endless pages, not almost endless, but it was over 100 pages, of the person filled out for themselves, trying to figure out what their metabolic type was, and then being able to address the problem from there. Well, now we can go another step further, because we actually have many other ways that we can check as to what's happening with that body's immune system. And that's really where it's at. Because one of the wonderful things that we can look at is the book called The Fourfold Path to Healing by Thomas Cowan, C-O-W-A-N. He's a medical doctor from San Francisco, and he is on the board of Weston A. Price Foundation here in Washington. And in his chapter on cancer, it's quite interesting that he talks about the 3 most fundamental causes of cancer being bad food, social isolation, and perhaps the most important is the environmental destruction. The poisoning of every piece of earth, every drop of water, and every breath of air with toxic carcinogenic chemicals. I believe it's said that we are now having over 5,000 new chemicals per month, is what I heard. And it is, even if it's only 1,000, it is quite frightening to think that we would have that much toxins actually coming into our world around us. And how would our body even deal with that? We are putting together a program, a detox type program that we are putting together right now that we want to introduce very soon because it because it would actually help people in understanding that all of us need to detox on a regular basis to some degree or other. Not everybody can do it the very same way. So that we need to find a way that we're able to go and get these poisons out of the system, because environmentally we are picking them up on a regular basis and not having the ability. If our liver is overloaded with these toxins, the liver is not able to do its function of cleaning the blood. So that, let's go to some 1, 2, 3 ideas of what things that we can do. The biggest thing is changing how we think. Changing how we think. In the book called The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton, and you can look at some of his lectures on YouTube. He has certainly done a lot of gotten us a lot of information about understanding how our belief system, we're not talking about religion now, we're talking about a belief system, and spirituality in itself is not a religion, but a understanding of how our mind thinks, because those thoughts that tell us that we are, I guess I deserve to be sick, or I don't, since I've been told that I have XYZ disease and there's no cure for it, well then I guess I'm dying. And someone who is being told that you have 3 months to live or 1 month to live. I've met many a person like that over the years and asked if they had something to live for, and they did. And these people, then I said, then live for it, go for it, believe in that you are able to do that. This doesn't mean that you are denying the disease, but rather you are creating cells in your body that actually have the ability to become healthy. And the big thing is you know already that you have cells that are dying on a regular basis and new cells that are coming. Have those new cells to become healthier cells, stronger cells, have a stronger immune system. But how you think is something that is so very, very important. A book that I find very helpful is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He is the chiropractor who also wrote the book Evolve Your Brain. But he went and proved himself, after having his back broken and vertebrae broken in several places, that within 11 weeks he was able to be back at work in his chiropractic office even without a back brace. Read about it. You'll find it to be very interesting. The mind. We have wonderful books. The Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert is really where it all started, because Candace Pert was the gal who went and proved scientifically that there are emotions in every single cell of our body. So that how we think and what we do really makes how we think, and what is the background music in our mind. In other words, what is the body actually thinking about, or what are those cells thinking about? Because we can put on a happy face in the front of us and actually have negative thoughts in the background. So that let's change those. We need to change them, and you need to make that a habit of changing every time a negative thought comes into your mind about you're not being able to get well, that the body is not able to change. It certainly can. if you have problems with fears and negative emotions, one of the easy ways that you can actually help yourself is energy tapping. Energy tapping is a way to eliminate anxiety and depression and cravings and a great deal of things such as painful memories, recovering from addictions, and improving relationships. In other words, Paula Himes is here at Health by Choice, and she does a lot of sitting and talking with you about how do you incorporate this into your lifestyle? How do you incorporate how you think into a different way? Because some people say, well, that's just the way I am. No, it does not have to be just that way. It is something that you can change, so that making a time to sit and talk to Paula, she'll certainly do some repatterning with you, which is actually helping you to get the left and right brain to be in balance, and that is very helpful. Also learning to know about, you can have Bach flower remedies made, you can have a homeopathic workup that I would do. There are many, many things that can help you to change your thought process and how you think. But Energy Tapping is a book that is written by Fred Gallo, Gallo, PhD, and Harry Vincenzia. And this is an excellent book on self-help of how do you actually tap the points on your body to help to get rid of the fears and the negative emotions. How you think. Very, very important. Next of all, we would go to how do we, by the way, I should mention also at this same time when we're talking about how we think, understanding that there are, every single organ of the body literally has emotion that goes with it. And many people have the aha moment when they hear of what is the weakest part in their body, and then how do they work to get it to become well again. Because the large intestine frequently has to do with guilt. And in the energy meridian clock, and if you want a sheet on this, we'll be happy to, you can go to a website called balancingyourhealth.info. That's balancingyourhealth.info, and you can see this chart that I'm talking about right now. The second organ that we talk about is stomach, and that has to do with disgust, the emotion that is related to it. The pancreas and spleen have to do with jealousy, worry, low self-esteem, so that the stomach passes on its contents, but the enzymes from the pancreas actually need to continue the digestive process. And if there was any organ that is probably king of all, it would be the pancreas. Dr. William Donald Kelly created a product, and Professional Health Products has continued to make a product called Pancreatin 8X Plus. Dr. Kelly, when he was here in 2000 at Health by Choice, he verified that the Pancreatin 8X Plus by Professional Health Products was by far the best product that was on the market to go and support the pancreas and its function. Because the pancreas and pancreatic enzymes, whether you're using protease by transformation or the Pancreatin 8X Plus, this is absolutely critical to getting the body to rebuild. Another organ is the heart, and it has to do with joy. In other words, having sufficient joy makes a difference in how the heart muscle itself even works. Small intestine has to do with insecurity, vulnerable, gullible, so that we are foods that require longer digestive times, complete their digestive process, actually their assimilation, in the small intestine. And so that it's very important that we're able to have it to working. It's right in the center of your tummy, right underneath your umbilicus or belly button. And it is a place of helping the body to assimilate. And that has to do with assimilating life as well. The next one is bladder. Louise Hay, in a number of her books, but in her own personal life, she talks about bladder and how the bladder works and how people can get, excuse the language, pissed off at life, at themselves, at issues that have happened. And the bladder becomes very irritated. So it doesn't have to just be with the foods that the person is eating, although that's very, very important, but how we think affects how each of these organs are working. Kidney, that has to do with fear. Kidney, of course, is a filter of the blood. It decides what to keep and what to throw away. So that we need to maintain proper chemical balance of the kidneys. And so water, we'll talk about water in a moment further, but water ends up being absolutely number one with regards to what we take into the body. Next is the pericardium, or circulation. The pericardium, thinking of the chest. The pericardium having to do with nutrients that are carried to groups of cells or capillaries, or even to each individual cell, which would be the lymphatics. But the pericardium and circulation, the emotion that goes with this is unresponsive, hurt, and extreme joy. Unresponsive to hurt is that the person doesn't grieve appropriately. In other words, they don't seem to be able to cry, because crying ends up being something that is so very, very beneficial to the body. It may not seem like it's a good thing to do, but it really is. It's a tremendous release. And so that the body is able to heal so much better if the person is able to respond. Circulation is certainly something that is very, very key to helping the body to rebuild. Then we think of the triple warmer. That's the endocrine system. And the triple warmer goes through the pineal gland, which the triple warmer, let me stay with it for a moment, sorry, is hopelessness, confusion, paranoia. The endocrine system adjusts the homeostasis of the body based on the electrolytes and enzyme replenishment, so that the triple warmer is very important, and part of that is the organs and glands that go under the triple warmer. The pineal gland is the gland of intuitive. The pineal gland has to do with, I say that it's the gland that's activated at nighttime when you sleep in absolute darkness. It is so critical that you are able to sleep in absolute black dark so that you can't even see your hand in front of your face. That means you don't want a television light, you don't want a clock light, you don't want a fire extinguisher light. Any of those lights would have to be red in order for them not to interfere with the pineal gland working at nighttime. I just had someone recently who lives in a condo, and they live in the top story where they have all skylights. And that really is quite, I have skylights in my bedroom, in my log cabin up here at the woods, but the thing is there's absolutely no light outside, so that would shine light inside. That would make it difficult for them. I'm trying to help them find a way that they can close those windows at nighttime because of all the security lights outside of their condo. So sleeping in the dark is absolutely critical. Remember the studies that were done with the EEG machine to show that in sleep studies they could shine a light through the covers on the back of a person's leg and have the EEG machine take off and show that there was some light around. So it's not a matter of just covering your eyes and thinking that the light doesn't get to you. It goes through your it goes to your skin, and it goes in all through covers as well. The pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is your analytical part of your body, and it is connected to C1, that's in your neck. Your neck has, often talk about here with the Zyto testing, how much the neck is actually connected to what is going on in the rest of the body. Actually to every organ in the entire system, really, at some vertebrae in the neck. Thyroid. Thyroid has to do with self-pity. Thyroid is something that is a big issue in today's world because we seem to think, society, let me say it that way, seems to think that government owes or that in some way that we need to feel sorry for ourselves. No, we can change that. We absolutely can. By taking a firm hold, finding out if your body does need iodine, finding out if your body does need thyroid support, because it isn't always found in the hormone itself. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it is found in just supporting the rest of the endocrine system. Thymus. Thymus, as you know, is right in the center of your chest, has to do with self-esteem. The thymus gland has to do with your immune system. In other words, your immune system is certainly activated by that thymus. That's why we use Thymex, or how we use some immunocomplex or Immuplex, or in other words, many different types of Immunomax, some of the different supplements that are out there that have to do with the immune system and getting it to be stronger. Pancreas here has to do with sympathy, and the prostate or uterus has to do with lack of love. And this is certainly very true. We see this frequently. And remember what I started out to say in the very beginning, having to do with the fundamental causes of cancer. In there was number 2 was social isolation. And this is something that I see happening more often than not, is that social isolation does not mean that it has to be someone that lives by themselves. There are people that can have many friends around them, and even family members or a mate. And so, but they still feel alone. They feel like they are in an island all by themselves. This has a profound effect on the body. And so that this lack of love certainly does have an effect on the organs of reproduction. The next is testes and ovaries, and that has to do with inadequacy. And this is very much a part of the lack of love segment as well. Lumbar region, the third, fourth lumbar, the third lumbar specifically has to do with these organs, the prostate and uterus, the testes and ovaries. Some people seem to think that they go to their chiropractor and they're not able to hold an adjustment. And frequently we need to go and think about, what are we doing? Are we spending time in prayer or meditation to go and allow the body to reset and to hold on to its adjustment? The other thing is that as to how we think also makes a difference with that. The gallbladder. The gallbladder has to do with bitterness and resentment. The gallbladder is something that has so much to do with cleansing of the tissues. Remember, the gallbladder, you hear me say that it produces the bile that acts like the soap suds to the inside of the intestine. And that gallbladder its function is absolutely critical in order for a person to go and get the toxins out of their body. Foods that we can think of are things like red beets and radishes. We can think of your fermented vegetables. That's your raw fermented vegetables. That's not using something with vinegar. That is using either kimchi or your Bubby's kraut or Bubby's relish or Bubby's pickles. So important to helping that body to go and help that gallbladder to thin that bile and get it moving through, because it really is very important. And then if you don't have a gallbladder, it's imperative that you're on some bowel salts of some type to go and help the liver, support that liver. Because, for example, if your gallbladder was taken out because you were told you had stones, then you can actually turn around and have stones be found in the liver. And this is something that would be very important to make sure that we were eliminating. When we think of a book by Andreas Moritz, the late Andreas Moritz, sadly to say now, but The Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush, a powerful do-it-yourself tool to optimize your health and well-being. he had a website called chi.com. Energy, sorry. It's energy, ENER hyphen CHI.com. Excellent website in showing us what was happening with the liver and gallbladder, and how he has pictures in there of the stones that are able to pass. And most people think that stones can block the bile duct, but so rarely does that happen, because literally with sufficient bile salts you can soften those stones and have the person pass them, even up to the size of a small tangerine, which sounds pretty mind-boggling, but that is what is written in scientific literature. Okay, next we have is the liver. The liver is your cleansing of your blood. Liver has to do with anger and frustration. Think of our world today. How many times we are just irritated with what is happening in our world today. Being able to see the good and see the good as what's happening. Very, very important, because it has to do with how that liver, which filters all of your blood, produces over 5,800 enzymes, and 80% of those enzymes are dependent on one single mineral, and that's magnesium. Magnesium is something that is so relevant to helping the body to work better. Take your magnesium and your calcium in the evening time. Much better off, especially if you're using any thyroid support, to take that in the morning. Also, the other organ yet that is related to emotions is the lungs, and that's related to grief. The lungs have to do with respiration, oxygenation, expulsion of waste gases, but the lungs and breathing are a big, big factor. Qigong is a wonderful way to start learning to know some other breathing things, but something that Dr. Doug Meintz is doing at thrivelancaster.com is he's using a neuroinfinity machine. And this is a machine that's actually able to measure what's happening in the brain, but far further than that, he's able to go and show you how you are breathing versus the heartbeat. The heart rate variability is a wonderful test that can actually show what's happening with that heart. And we also do that here with a acoustic cardiograph that Dr. Royal Lee developed, which is able to show us what is going on in the heart and how each of the valves of the heart actually relates to digestion and liver function, pancreas function, gallbladder function, allergies, kidney function. And this is actually able to tell us what is going on in the body and how we can correct it with nutrients. The other thing is that the neuroinfinity machine is something that we hope to obtain here very soon at Health by Choice, because this is a understanding of how we can synchronize the thought process and how we can get the body to start rebuilding and understanding more about how your body works. Another website that I think would be very important for you to look at in looking at cancer and how do we address it. I'm aware that Dr. Cowan uses a fair amount of LDN, and that's naltrexone. And it is something that certainly enhances the immune system. It's taken at bedtime. And you can go to a website called LDN, three initials, LDNERS, LDNers.org, and read more about it, because it certainly is something that does help the immune system to become stronger. Allergic acid is another item that can help that immune system. That's red raspberries. You can go to allergic, ELLAGIC.net, which is a very good website to read more about some of the research that is done. Pectosol C ends up being something that is a modified citrus pectin, which originally years ago was brought up by Flora Company. Now we have it by Econugenics. And the medical doctor who actually created this particular product by Econugenics, Isaac Elias, is quite has done a lot of work. He is one of the companies that has turned all of his profits back into research, into studying and proving what he has created. The Hana Pure, which is from the magnolia bark, is also something that he created, which is very, very important to the immune system and how the body is able to rebuild. Cure for All Diseases by Hulda Clark is a book that still ends up being a classic in the literature in understanding how many toxins in our environment can really be affecting us. And she talks about using many, many different types of herbs. Not everybody is capable of swallowing 100-some pills a day, so that it gives us very good information. But I think that there are ways that we can work with much less intake of pills per se, but rather how we get the body to rebuild. And this is not taking anything away from her, because she surely has done a wonderful job in research showing us as to how the body can rebuild. There's a wonderful YouTube by Greg Braden on curing cancer using her own technology of emotion. It's on YouTube, and it's regarding bladder cancer, and you can actually visually see the tumor go away. And this is by several doctors working as a thought process. You have to look at it to really see how it's very, very important to understand more, because prayer is a mighty, mighty, mighty tool, and don't shun it because of belief systems, but remember that it can be used as a very powerful tool to rebuild the body. Pro-Onc, ONC, Support Complex is a product that Professional Health Products has put together that follows many of the needs of what's happening in the body, especially your vitamin D level, and knowing what it is in your body. We have Dr. Eric Von Kiel on board here at Health by Choice, and he believes that most vitamin D levels should be somewhere between 100 to 200. And many doctors would feel like, oh my gosh, that is way too high. But he has some documentation of that and how it can actually be used. You can go to vitamindcouncil.org and also see how that could be beneficial in helping. There is just so many, many things that are out there that can actually show us what is beneficial. Think of mistletoe, viscum alb, cal-D-glucarate, which actually goes and gathers all of the spent hormones and helps the body to get rid of them. Using some of the homeopathics, connecting with Dr. Banerjee in India, we have found to be very helpful, because using specific homeopathic remedies that can be so beneficial to the body. Also, we have the wonderful work of Dr. Moshe Frankel. Moshe Frankel is spelled M-O-S, S like in Sam, H-E-F-R-E-N-K-E-L, MD.com. Moshe Frankel, Dr. Frankel is an oncologist, and he is the one who started at MD Anderson Hospital in Texas to teach the oncologists there to incorporate nutrition. But if you go to his website, you're going to find some very, very interesting things. And the why I'm spending so much time on emotions is literally because it is so core and so very, very, the very core aspect of what's happening in degenerative disease. We can think of a poly-MVA, Coriolis, indole. We can think of IAG, Immunofin, and then of course the many different things that can be used. People ask about the Budwig program, of where we're using the cottage cheese, flaxseed oil. Yes, you can use those type of combinations, but remember, there is no one list that we can say is for everyone. This is something that you have to, and what I highly recommend doing is to go and consider Ralph Moss at CancerDecisions.com as a place that you would go to for hearing the entire story of what is available around the world specific to your type of problem. because that really does make a big difference. Okay, Avamar, I did not mention it. Avamar Ultra. Avamar is something that is so very, very beneficial as well. That's another company that has turned all of their profits into research and are really doing a lot to help in supporting research for the body to rebuild. Thank you very much for listening, and I would think that there are many, many other pieces of information that we could add to this, but I would be welcoming your questions or welcoming your comments, and we'd like to go more into diet because we believe that the Weston A. Price diet program ends up being one of the key factors in helping the body to heal and to rebuild. And so you can go to westonaprice.org, or you can go to Price Pottenger, Price, Price hyphen Pottenger, Pottenger.org. And both of these websites are very, very clear as to what kinds of foods are very, very beneficial. We didn't touch on mushrooms, we didn't touch on the burdock complex, but these are all things that are so very, very beneficial. Thank you.